Hello, my friends. I want to speak on a few different things today. Firstly, if you're kind of scrolling through the news at all, you'll see that California is again just getting pounded with what they're calling a bomb cyclone. It's basically a hurricane force wind hitting San Francisco. And remember how I've compared San Francisco, California, which is figuratively known as Sodom, as being just like Nineveh, how God is pouring so much judgment on this land before he's going to give them an olive branch by the end of it. But by the time the olive branch comes, they will already be so far into their repentance, those who are left there scattered, or those who are left there, period, that by the time the olive branch is extended, they will already be reaching up for it. Of course, that's one scenario of Sodom. But you're going to have those come out of Sodom that are going to be saved from Sodom, California. But you're going to have most all of them that are there perish in their sin. And God is going to continue to pour out this judgment until the wheat has been sifted from the tare. That's essentially what I've understood of California. The day is coming where Sodom, San Francisco, California as a whole is going to be cut off and thrown into the sea. You just picture an earthquake right along the line of California almost, or a great tsunami that takes out Hawaii on the way to California. Something is going to happen at some point in time that throws California into the sea. But before that happens, I tend to believe there's going to be an outpouring, a calling, an olive branch of the Lord that will save those who can be saved out of Sodom before it goes down to its destruction. Just like God offered the olive branch to Lot, so too it shall be for Sodom, San Francisco, California. The other thing I wanted to speak of, we see another near miss with the airplane. We see Southwest plane narrowly misses Baltimore ambulance at takeoff, and another airport near disaster happening unbelievably frequent in the aviation world. I've explained this before. This does not happen because the skies are built on blood. The safety of the airline industry and air traffic control over the years, it's a road paved in blood. All those accidents that have occurred, they've taken steps to remedy the specific kind of accidents. You can't ever make anything fail safe. That's not the human world we live in. But what you can do is make it better and better and better and better. And for aviation over the last 70 years, you've seen that better. You've seen that improvement happen because of the disasters, and suddenly you don't see the same amount of disasters. The mechanics themselves got better with the engines and the airframes and all of these things. Air traffic controllers got better at making determinations. They have different radar and different things that they use at their advantage that people in 1960 flying didn't have. And all of these things were paved with the blood, the crashes of other airplanes and what caused them. Over the last year, I've seen incident after incident after incident of near miss. And the reason it's near miss is, again, similar to how you can look at Sodom, California. It's a near miss because the Lord is extending an olive branch to the world right now that most of the world will reject. But they're still going to be scattered amongst the world. One or two who are going to stand up and grab onto that olive branch and be saved. And right now we're seeing the precursor to the ultimate judgment, or I believe I've seen this, all the airplanes falling out of the sky at once. But you're seeing the precursor for that event happen now as a warning, saying, hey, look at what's happening. And it goes under people's radar because they don't understand what's happening. None of the world understands what's happening. But we who walk with light can understand to some extent what our days are doing and what they are producing. And then we'll move on into Donald Trump. And of course, everybody was expecting him to be indicted yesterday. It didn't happen. A lot of people were thinking today on 3/22, the Skull and Bones Day, today it was going to happen. And again, the grand jury or whatever reconvened. They didn't bring the charges today. And I see on the Drudge Report a very interesting article. It says, who had it worse, Trump or Jesus Christ? So when those who just know the word itself, they don't know God, but they're not against God and they know the word. You can liken these to when the disciples were watching all the people go out exorcising demons and praising the Lord. They were spreading out the gospel. And the disciples looked at Jesus and said, "Do you want us to stop them?" And Jesus said, "No. They are doing the works of God." Just on the evidence of the word itself. You can look at those people who did not walk with Jesus, but by the word itself recognized what was happening. That is exactly what we're seeing happen right now in the world amongst a small group of people that attend church regularly and they read the Bible. They don't necessarily know God, but they know the scriptures. You're seeing them, even them, able to see the parallel events that so many of these teachers that you hear on YouTube simply refuse to recognize. You're witnessing parallel events to the gospel unfold in your daily life as you walk on this earth. The parallels are striking, so much so that people can see it just based off of the word. So you have all of these things that have happened to Trump. They did the same thing to Jesus. And again, I don't know the end result of Trump. I don't know whether he ends up, like Solomon at the end of it, or whether he goes up to heaven in the rapture. I don't know. But what I do know is what we walk right now. And right now, he was the only one in the world that stood in between that one who took his position by force in 2021, what they want to do to the average Christian person, which we know what they want to do to the average Christian person. Revelation 12 speaks of it. The fifth seal speaks of it, which I'll explain a little bit about that in a little bit here. You know that they want to persecute and to kill you as a Christian. That's what the world wants. And he was the one king who held Babylon up, the one that tried to restore Babylon rather than tear it down, and the one that has to be first taken out of the way in order for Babylon to fall. But here's the parallel of this. Look at how many charges, situations, events that they've set up against Trump since the year 2016. And in every single one of those events, do you know what you've seen? He somehow escapes them. And it's becoming just evidently apparent by the parallel of the word itself, what is happening here. And it's kind of been beaten into me through the years just to see the parallel of it. What happened to Jesus whenever it wasn't his time? They tried to grab him to bring charges against him, but he faded away because his time had not come yet. They were not, the Pharisees, they were not able to put a hand on him because his time didn't come yet. The only time they were able to put their hand on him was whenever it was time to fulfill the scriptures. And that is exactly the parallel that is happening with Trump. And I believe that's exactly what happens right before the fall of Babylon. At the fall of Babylon, that's when they will put their hands on Trump. But not until Babylon's ready to fall. So if you see Trump still walking out free, he's not brought in charges against him, he's not in jail, he's not, been killed, Babylon is still not yet ready to fall. But the moment you see them imprison him or kill him, then you know that Babylon's ready to fall, and look up, because that day draws close. The parallel, you'd have to literally be blind not to see the parallel of it. And it's funny because why did the Jews reject Jesus whenever he came to them? Well, they looked at him as a false prophet. They didn't believe him because they had their own set ways that they saw him. They thought that whenever the Messiah came, he was going to bring the kingdom to them. In other words, he was going to give them that earthly kingdom that they want. So they looked at him as he should be a king fulfilling these things of the Messiah, not some ordinary man out there preaching. He should be a king. He should be royalty. He should be coming in his white robes and setting up Jerusalem for us to rule over the whole world. They looked at Jesus as a king. Likewise, the Christians, your average everyday church-going Christian, how do they look at Jesus? They look at him as the spiritual leader, as the guy that, he's spiritual in all aspects. They don't look at him and give him the qualities that his appearance, we should be looking for a king, not a spiritual leader. Do you see the parallel of this? The Jews, the Pharisees, were looking for a king and they got a spiritual leader. We as Christians are looking for a spiritual leader whenever it's time to fulfill the king. So it's opposites. Jesus, we should be looking for kings and leaders to represent him and his coming and the signs of his coming. And so much of the church cannot see to recognize that. So that's why I look at Trump as this king. That's why I look at Biden as a king. You can see that we should expect Jesus by what happens amongst the kings and the kingdoms in the world, because that is what he is coming to set up now. He already came to set up the church. That was already done. He fulfilled the part of the spiritual leader that we know that God is. The next time he comes, he's bringing his kingdom with him, and he's going into power to judge each nation and judge each person by the fruits of their labor. We should be looking at kings now to fulfill the things of the word, not so much at religious leaders, because he already did that. He already built the church. I already stand here as a stone. So do you. So we should be looking more toward kings than spiritual leaders, and I believe that's why Jesus speaks about being deceived by spiritual leaders. Do not follow them in the inner chambers. Do not go out into the wilderness after them, because he's not coming back as that spiritual leader. He already did that. He's coming back as the king. And that's why I look at Trump and all these things that's happening with him, and you cannot not see the parallel to the events that happen with Jesus. When they are allowed to finally put their hands on Trump, that is when the fall of Babylon comes. And I believe he has been raised up for that very purpose. That when you see him go into trial or into prison, or they kill him, which ultimately has to happen also, I believe. When you see these things, you know that Babylon is ready to fall. But it won't happen until that happens. That's how I'm understanding the scriptures, because everything that happened with Jesus didn't happen until it was his time and everything was ready. Likewise, all this fall is not going to happen until Babylon is ready to fall. I kind of just want to take you through a little bit of a play-by-play of what we've seen just by evidence of the Word and what we're going to see. What we may not see, but what somebody right now walking this earth is going to see, and what all of those who are wicked are going to see. So in other words, I'm kind of breaking it down the way it's been broken down to me. Some people are going to make it through round 1. Some people are going to make it through round 1 and 2. Some people are going to make it through round 1, 2, and 3. Some people are going to make it to the finals and beyond the finals. All of these ones are going to leave the game, we'll say, at different times. And I don't know how many different times there are exactly. I can make the case for 3 raptures. I can make the case for 2 raptures. I don't know. I just know there is at least one, and I believe there's more than one, because I believe there has to be. The evidence of the scriptures also speak for that. It shows different times when people are taken up out of the earth, different periods of time, and there's all these things that kind of makes it hard to really understand it, because you have sorrows, you have tribulations, you have great tribulations, you have the wrath of the Lamb. Just picture this like 4 different periods of testing on a game show or on some kind of a music show or something, where each contestant goes into the next stage. But some contestants leave earlier than other contestants. It doesn't mean that they lost either. They just say they get a bye into the next round. That's how you can kind of look at that from a sport perspective. So you have these different periods of times that are almost impossible to really firmly say, this is what it is, that's what it is. Because the scripture itself, if you look at Revelation, if I take 21 puzzle pieces and throw them down on the ground, and I say, pick up those puzzle pieces, pick up 1, 2, 3 of them and read them and tell me what the rest of that puzzle is going to look like, I probably don't know. Because the more pieces that we're given of Revelation to see, the easier it is for us to see it. And I think that's why it's called the book of Revelation. Because as we see things, as we're given things by the Spirit itself, it becomes much easier to put that puzzle together as one final piece. But most people aren't ever going to get to that period of understanding. They're going to stop somewhere in their journey. They're not going to go on to the next place, but they're going to be living in the Word without even knowing it. So I kind of look at the book of Revelation like that. And what I'm seeing happen now is we've had 2021 come. I'm going through a little bit of the seals that I explained before. You had the one ruler taken out of the way, the one who stood in the way of Babylon falling. He's taken out of the way. They put one in who assures Babylon's going to fall. But Then you get into the second seal, which we begin the proxy war that is Ukraine, which is also known as World War III. It's just right now in the proxy war. You begin that, you take peace from the earth, and then now we're watching the economic collapse happen. You see the banks falling, you see them printing money, you see all of these food distribution centers go up in flames over the last 2 years. You see the war making famines more inevitable. You see all these picture perfect things lined up like a trap that the whole world is going to walk into. It's all set up for that third seal. When the third seal comes to be a little bit further on into it, then you will see everything play out just as it says. What happens in that fourth seal, though? And this is what I'm expecting to come. And I don't know exactly whether I'm going to be here, whether I walk through the valley of the shadow of the death through that, or whether I'm not here for that, or whether you're here for that or not here for that, or whether there's a rapture then or not. I can't be 100% certain on any of it. So just listen to what I say as far as preparing. Yes, I'm gonna be a prepper today, but not a prepper as in hoarding up the things of the world and think it's going to save you. A prepper is in get your mind on the spirit, ready for anything that we may have to observe for the sake of God and his name, for the sake of his son, Jesus Christ. For the sake of all these things, just understand this is what is to come by the evidence of the word itself. There's going to be some kind of great plague come. It's going to be like a flu or something like COVID. It's going to start somewhere, it's going to start fast and furious, and it's not going to slow down. It's going to throw all the nations into chaos just by this event itself. Realize you got 8 billion people on the earth, and this fourth seal that opens takes off 1/4 of them. That means that you got 8 billion. By the end of that seal, there's going to be 6 billion. That means 2 billion people right now are going to perish within that fourth seal. So there's that's coming up. Then you get into there's going to be a great holocaust of Christians. That's what the fifth seal is, a great holocaust of Christians. It'll make 1940 Germany look like sweet and innocent compared to the holocaust of Christians, and it's going to be led by the great red dragon, which is China. That also is to come. And then you're going to see a lot of martyrs, and you're going to see a lot of people dying for the sake of that name of Jesus Christ. And then you're going to get to a sixth seal, which is even more desolation. It's going to bring such fear on the world that people will be in hiding. People don't even want to be around each other by that time. Then there's going to be another deliverance. And, you know, these kind of things, I'm just saying, prepare for them. We're going to see a great earthquake. We're going to see fearful signs in the heavens. We're going to see all kind of things if we are here during that time, if we walk through the valley of the shadow of the death. And the only reason I say these things is to prepare you, because it could be reality. I'm hoping that it's not. I'm really hoping for all of our sakes, for all of the sorrows that we've already gone through, that we don't experience those things. But I'm saying somebody somewhere will, because it's written that they will. So whether you are going to experience those things or not, we all should prepare for them, because we prepare together as one body. All right, so these things are going to happen. A great plague is going to come over the earth. You're going to watch the fall of Babylon. You're going to see a great earthquake swallow California. You're going to see the whole sky turn to darkness. All these things, somebody living right now out there is going to see them all until the wrath of the Lamb comes. Once the wrath of the Lamb comes, there's nobody on the earth left anymore that has any amount of light left in them. The wrath of the Lamb is strictly for the wicked. Those who are listening to me, I don't think anybody on the wrath of the Lamb side of it is going to be listening to me. They would have shut me out a long time ago and probably cursed me out in a comment by now. So I don't think anybody listening to me is ever going to get to that point. But there will be all the wicked that do get to that point. And we can thank God that we won't get to that point. So how to prep is like that. Prepare mentally in your mind for the sake of God. You're ready for all things because of your faith and belief that He can sustain and deliver you from them. That's how we prepare. We get onto the ark, first in our minds and in our hearts, and second, He will take us onto that ark by force, by rapture, and we will dwell with Him on that ark. So that's how we prepare. And I want to say something funny because I read it, or I saw this in a YouTube video. It's some video where they're talking about all these leading physicists, scientists, and they're talking about how great the universe is and the science of the universe and how smart they are and that they can understand these things. And I'm thinking about all these scientists and what they actually are. They're like, you play the Sims game. It's a great game to recognize what the world's like. You play the Sims and you have to, bring up their abilities on certain things. Like they got to learn cooking and how to do repairs, and they can learn education, all these different stats that they have. That's like somebody sitting down on the couch in a Sims game and picking up a science book and getting smart by it. That information is only useful inside the box itself. So they spend their whole lives going after information in the box that means nothing on a scale of eternity. As we set our hopes and our sights on eternity and understand that that box is there, but that's not where our focus is. Imagine what a wasted life that must feel for somebody that comes to salvation after going through that whole life like that. And I use that as a point because the preppers that are telling you to prep physically by gathering up goods and all these different things, that's like somebody, one of the Sims characters in a game, and they can somehow communicate with you as the player, and they're saying, don't shut my game off. I'm bringing all this stuff in. I'm going to prepare for you. So even if you shut it off, I'm still going to have enough goods to get me through whatever you're going to do. But as soon as you delete the file and shut the computer down, everything that Sim did to prepare, everything they put inside of that house, it's gone. It's good for nothing. It's completely and utterly useless. That's what it is like to prepare in our day with things of the flesh, because you cannot prepare for what comes upon the earth. Prepare in your hearts, draw closer to God and His Spirit, and follow Him, listen to Him. By evidence of the Word itself, with what you can see, grow your faith, and everything He said is happening. So everything else He said is real too, meaning that He is going to save us. He's going to deliver us from whatever comes onto us, because He loves us and because we love Him. He loved us first so we could love Him. And I know that everybody walking with God right now understands what I'm saying. Our hearts are set toward Him. You cannot take our hearts back away. They're already set. What trials need to come upon us to prove ourselves to God, He already knows in your heart. Any trial He gives you, no matter what it is, no matter how much the devil tempts you, that in the end, if your heart belongs to Him and you love Him, not the devil himself, not even God, can sway your heart away from that kind of love. Because you have free will. You can choose that love. And that's the period of time that we're in. Grow in love towards each other, towards one another, towards your families, towards people out there who hate you more than others, because you know those who hate you, you know what their destiny is. They will witness that wrath of the Lamb. That is their destiny. And no human being is meant to go into that wrath. But some will. That is their destiny. Love them even more who hate you, because you know where they end up. And pray to God that He removes that iniquity that lies over them from their temptations that they've given into throughout their lives. Pray to God that He delivers that person who hates you, because you would never want to see anybody go through what is planned for the angels and those who do battle with God by their own choice to do it. We should pray for our enemies more than we pray for even those who we love. Because we can sit and talk about what is coming, what's happening, when are we going into rapture, what's doing all these things, but we're all saved. We're all going to be spending an eternity in heaven by the end of all these events that happen in the world with the things of men. We're all going to ultimately end up there who believe in God and believe in Jesus Christ. That's where our ending is. But their ending is not there. Their ending is in hell with the angels, who also fell and chose that. We should pray for our enemies more than we even pray for our own children, because we are assured, we are guaranteed to understand what happens to them. God bless.